Welcome to episode 6 of Where in the World, season 4, the detailed showcase of cities and locations that have been visited in the Arcane Adventures campaign setting. For season 4, we follow the story as it unfolds as we journey across Mount Celestia, the realm of the seven heavens. As always, we have a map on screen that details the general location of the place we are talking about during today's episode, so that you can follow along with us as we explore. Let's jump right in to episode 6 of season 4, Where in the World? The Platinum Palace. A stark contrast to the fog-laden landscape of Solania. Mertion, Heaven's fifth lair, is largely open and rolling fields. Occasionally, patches of thin snow dot the landscape, but otherwise, just wild grasses root themselves here. Mertion is of temperate weather, right around 72 degrees. A constant midday light, similar to Mercuria, keeps the sun tidally locked overhead. There is surprisingly little to no wind on this lair, even for this high up on the mount. Additionally, few trees grow up here, almost all of them being in an area where the floating sea is, which is where we are for today. A vast expanse of floating rocks, and even moderately sized islands, all hovering as if they were removed from gravity's effects itself. When entering the region, a small overhang on a lip rock of a broken bridge provides a functional and remiss observation deck into the vast floating sea. It comes as a challenge of how one is supposed to make their way to the Platinum Palace if there is no walkway. But perhaps there is. By pointing at the smaller stones in the floating sea, which should be noted are still 20 to 30 feet in diameter, one can actually telekinetically pull the stones to form their own bridge, creating a linkage between the larger islands of the floating sea. If one continues to do this, they will ultimately arrive at the largest island on the floating sea, and the ever more impressive castle built atop it. The Platinum Palace, widely regarded as the home of Bahamut, the Platinum Dragon, is nearly 4,000 feet in height. It rises to a steep pinnacle. The doors alone to the castle are over 100 feet tall. The castle shimmers in the light, bouncing, reflecting light from the sun, as the castle is made from actual platinum and gold, all said to just be part of the Platinum Dragon's vast treasure hoard. In fact, the entire castle is said to be built with materials and valuable resources amassed by Bahamut over his many millennia of existence. Unlike many other structures on Mount Celestia, the Platinum Palace has been demolished, reconstructed, and redesigned intentionally multiple times throughout its course of history. The current structure that we are looking at today is approximately 1,200 years old in Ilethian years, according to a documented report found in the archives of the palace itself. Given its location and height on Mount Celestia, one could assume that it would be lowly populated, but they would be wrong. Over 500 beings reside in this palace, which for this area of Mount Celestia is quite a lot. Most of the people here are departed priests and priestesses of Bahamut that have come to continue serving their deity. A handful of archons also stationed here, as well as Bahamut's private court, which includes metallic dragons and wise sages from across the realms. Bahamut himself is accompanied by his personal guard of 7 ancient gold dragons, almost at all times, though he likely does not even need that protection. Moving inwards, the Platinum Palace is filled with tall corridors and decorated chambers. Art pieces from across time and the many realms find a station here as a display of Bahamut's wisdom and also his hobby at collecting pieces of art. The light bulbs of this structure are also crystalline in nature. The gold leaflets run through the platinum walls and the marbled floors. Carpets of fine silks and rugs of exquisite linens only add to the decor of the interior space. Large chambers for council, for dining, and for bathing are all found inside the palace proper. Libraries with old archives of wise sayings and teachings of good and justice, offices for priests, and even expansive living rooms with diamond chandeliers. On the backside of the castle, a landing platform that is over 800 feet in diameter is made of carved stone, serving as a place for the massive platinum dragon to land and take off from. The middle section and the upper section of the castle are reserved for Bahamut himself and his son, Taldarin. The bedchambers of both are incredibly well decorated and also impressively large. The very pinnacle of the tower, the highest chamber of the castle, serves as Bahamut's throne room, as he is both a deity and also king of the metallic dragons and the Feldrakes. The throne room is also the largest of several treasure vaults that store riches of untold amounts, great values, inside the castle. A platinum throne sits in the center of the chamber, and large windows overlook the floating sea and the rest of Mount Celestia below. For an interesting detail of note, Bahamut spends less than half of his time at the palace, as he is often off handling divine matters in places across both Mount Celestia and many other realms elsewhere. He has commented that many of his meetings, especially his divine duties, could be handled from inside the palace itself, but he seems to prefer the travel, though we can't say we blame him, especially if you could fly. The castle, when Bahamut is not present, remains in the stead of his son Taldarin. But even Taldarin has places he must also go to. So when both of the deities are gone, High Archon Verzel herself, or several Archons in her place, will come to attend the palace. But the castle staff, especially the priests, are very sufficient for taking care of the grounds. The only way to the Platinum Palace is by crossing and traversing the floating sea, like we discussed previously. The road exiting the palace returns to the main road of Celestia, which allows travelers passage back down to Ouroboros on Solania, or to continue their upwards journey across Mertion and ultimately arrive at Empyrea. We hope you've enjoyed this closer look at the Platinum Palace and have found the details about it to your interest. A castle fit for a king, a magnificent architectural structure, and an incredibly holy site. That's all for this episode of Where in the World. We'll see you next time.